Top 10 worst things about WrestleMania 40. Let's just start with the top one. Jimmy versus Jey. That sucked. That sucked. Oh my God, did that suck. That match was horrible. I had a feeling after watching Royal Rumble that these two would not be good when they were number one, number two, and it was just, they had no chemistry then. I was hoping they were saving the good stuff for WrestleMania 40. They weren't. All they were doing were saving super kicks. Oh, what was that? A super kick party? Am I watching a Young Buck match? No. Stop it. Okay, they did so many super kicks that in night 2, when someone did a super kick, I was like, so what? If Jimmy and Jey can survive 17 of them, you can survive one. They totally killed the super kick for me. 24 hours later, that match was horrible. They kept saying this was the third brother versus brother match in WrestleMania history. I guess Michael Cole forgot about Undertaker versus Kane, but I digress. But here's the deal. No one expected Owen versus Brett, but we could have got better than Jeff versus Matt. Jeff versus Matt, you go back and watch that match sucked too. That match was horrible. That was just so boring. It was lame, and so was this. It's just such a shame. I've liked the Usos since they were doing their war chants, and they were 50 pounds heavier, fat, not muscle, in the tag team division when they started like 10, 12, 13 years ago, and it's such a shame, especially because last year they had such an amazing outing, main eventing night 1 of WrestleMania, and now here they are. They get their chance to have their brother versus brother WrestleMania match that they've always wanted, and alright, so I don't know what to tell you on that. Let's go on to the number 9. These are no particular order, by the way, with the exception of Jey versus Jimmy. That one is the absolute worst thing. Everything else is kind of debatable, except for maybe the last one. My 10th item is going to be like, you could argue that might be the worst one. That'll be the last one on this list. So the next one, though, is going to be Drew McIntyre losing. Yeah, that sucked. Drew McIntyre losing. On my best of WrestleMania 40, I had Drew McIntyre winning. On this one, I have him losing. I am so happy that the Money in the Bank was a cash-in. I wanted Damian Priest to cash in successfully. I'm tired of the Money in the Bank not being a success. However, if you look at my video on is Damian going to cash in, I said, please don't do it when Drew wins. Please don't do it when Drew wins, because I really wanted Drew to have this title and just gloat with it and his promos. I think this is going to still be good. It's great for his character, for a cash-in to happen, and for him to get screwed, because now he can be mad at Damian Priest, he can be mad at CM Punk, he's a great troll, but I really wanted him to have longer than a 5-minute reign. I really felt he deserved it. I'm happy for Damian Priest, but just as a solo item, I did not want Drew to lose, so for me, that's one of the worst things. But I do feel that there's a lot of potential coming out of this. It's just a personal thing. Let's move on to the next item. The third worst thing is going to be the entrances. What's up with some of these entrances? Seth Rollins' entrance. Seth Rollins, it looked cool. It reminded me of Day of the Dead, New Orleans, Mardi Gras, but it made no sense. Okay, so it looked cool, but it made no sense. Why was this band coming out? It made sense for Drew McIntyre to have the bagpipes and the sword and all that, but Seth Rollins made no sense, and neither did Bayley. Look, what is that? Why did Bayley come out with Egyptians and wings? No sense whatsoever. Becky, her book, it was just an advertisement. It was just a book, a graphic. It looked like, have you seen the Thor Love and Thunder with the kid, his head just floating? That's what it reminded me of, just this book floating. It was kind of, the concept was decent, but the execution was just this book floating, horrible. And then when Becky came through the book, it was just weird. I did not like that entrance. And what about Jey Uso? Back to Jey and Jimmy sucking. The little Wayne or whatever rapper it was that came out with him. What was that? Okay, even if you were a fan of that guy back in the day, it's like, it was not executed well. I'm sure it was like a moment for Jimmy or Jey, but no, none of it looked good. It has to make sense. The entrance has to make sense, or it has to look super cool. Look at The Rock. The Rock's was awesome. It was super cool. Drew McIntyre's was awesome. It looked super cool. You can have awesome entrances, but they have to make sense. They have to go with the story or the character. The Kabuki Warriors and Damage Control, the three-person, they came out and it fit. You know, the umbrellas and stuff. It didn't have to be completely spectacular, but it has to fit the character. And if it doesn't, it just doesn't make sense, and it kind of takes out, why is Seth Rollins with this band? What does this band have to do with anything? So, yeah, the entrances, some of the entrances, some of the part of a negative part. The next thing I want to talk about is the Rey Mysterio match. I really feel they should have just had Rey versus Dominic again. Just have Rey versus Dominic, or do faction versus faction, not this tag team stuff. It was just, no, I didn't like it. But I could have just like allowed it to be a bathroom break if it had not been for the ending. The ending was so weird and so like, what? We had two, what were their names? It was Jason, like, it starts with a K, and Lance Johnson. These are football players. They came out of the crowd with luchador masks on, and they were a part of the finish. It made no sense. It's like, what's going on? I get it. These are football players of the Philadelphia team, but I mean, honestly, wrestling, we don't really care. You know, we don't really need football players involved in our matches. You know, we don't care. We just don't care. It was just weird. I get why they did it, but at the same time, I don't get why they did it. It could have just easily been maybe like, if you really wanted the football players in, have Dominic, like, get thrown into them and they throw him out, or maybe he gets into an arguing match with him, they throw the drink in his face, and then Rey hits him with some kind of flip. That would have been fine, but to actually get involved in the match and cause the pinfall, and to actually get involved in the match in the way they did, it just not good. We don't care. They had nothing to do with the LWO. All right, so no, didn't like it. The next thing, number 5, I didn't like Jade Cargill's treatment. She seemed like an equal to Bianca Belair and Naomi. And no shade, Bianca Belair, she deserved to have a single match, too. That should probably be on this list. In fact, it would have been awesome if it had been Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair, and they did face versus face, so they didn't have to make Jade a bad guy because everybody wants to cheer her. They could have just been like, who's the more dominant female wrestler? And they're probably going to do that down the line. And I also understand that Jade's so fresh and green that they probably needed to put her in a tag match, so she, you know, you can hide someone's weaknesses and amplify their strengths. But the thing what I don't like what they did with Jade is that they need to be making her into a monster, good guy or bad guy, just like this, like the second coming, basically. And she needs to be treated not, you know, she needs to have a separate entrance. And it needs to be, her entrance on SmackDown when she signed, I thought was better than her entrance at WrestleMania 40. So, like, she needs to be a big deal. And for her to just come out with everybody else, and she wasn't even really given the hot tag. She did get a hot tag, but, like, in the middle of the match, she just, like, kind of tagged in. It's like, we needed to want her, be desperate for her to come in. I just felt like her booking was just like any other wrestler, and that's not like a horrible thing, but at the same time, I feel like at this stage in her debut career, she needs to be treated better than an ordinary wrestler. She needs to be treated like an attraction. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So yeah, not the worst, but not the best. And I really mean no shade towards Bianca and Naomi. They're great. They're awesome. But because of how they've been treating Jade, that's why I feel that should be the case. And Bianca's been carrying the division, and all the women, in fact, all the women in the entire match are, like, spectacular. I just feel because of Jade's, you know, newness and freshness and who she is, she just needed to be a little more elevated right now. And eventually, you know, we'll, like, as the new car smell wears off, you know, she can be treated on the same level as everybody, but right now she just has to be treated as an attraction. The next thing is going to be controversial. My next one is controversial. It's the Sami Zayn Gunther match. I get it. That was an awesome match. It was everyone saying it was the greatest match of WrestleMania. But I wanted Chad Gable. I really wanted Chad Gable. I thought his story was way better than, hey, I want a gauntlet match. I want to be in WrestleMania. I have my doubts, but I think I can do it. All right? Yeah. I think it should have been Chad Gable. Sami Zayn, he had his WrestleMania moment last year. Insert him somewhere else. You know, put him in the, make it a 4-pack challenge with the U.S. title of Logan Paul. He's good with celebrities, but yeah, I really felt Chad Gable could have used the shine of WrestleMania. Why not make a new superstar? Because Chad Gable's been there forever, and we all know he can go, but he needs to get to that next level, and winning that Intercontinental Champion from Gunther would have done it, especially with that built-in storyline. His storyline was just so much better, and the match would have been better too. It just, hands down, the dude would have a match, and that's not saying anything against Sami, because Chad would have the best match of the night with anybody, especially Gunther, who usually has the best match of the night as well. Those are your probably two best wrestlers right now, and yeah, it just, I love Sami, but this match, I really felt it should have been Chad, and so I give it a down. So now we're moving on to number 7. This one, not really WWE's fault, but kinda. The cold weather. Night 1, the weather dropped so bad that it really killed the crowd. It killed the crowd, and it really killed the atmosphere. And I can't blame the crowd. I mean, if you're in like 30-degree weather for 4 hours, that sucks, right? And then you're in 40-degree weather and you have to watch Jey versus Jimmy, that like triple sucks. So sorry Jimmy J. I'm gonna be throwing shade at you guys a lot though, because you know better. You could have done a better match. Give me a break. Anyways, the cold weather, and you're like, well, WWE can't control that. Well, then don't book stadiums in the north for WrestleMania. Okay, it's April, anything can happen. Thankfully, night 2 was better, but night 1 was very much hindered by the cold weather, the crowd, and we know a hot crowd can make any match good. The wrestlers feed off it. We really needed that would have just been awesome if the crowd had been hot throughout the entire night, but they were cold, so I don't blame them. But WWE, don't do that again. No more stadium matches without a dome. No more outdoor stadium matches in the north during WrestleMania season, because that might happen. Thankfully, again, night 2 was way better and the crowd was way better. But again, no shade at the crowd. They, I would have been cold and miserable too. Okay, number 8 is nitpicking. I get it. This one's nitpicking, but maybe it's not. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Rock and Roman. And now we think, wait, stop. Not what you think. That's actually not the bad thing. It was the entrance order. I'm talking a lot about entrances here, but Cody should have came out second and Seth Rollins should have came out first. And you're like, what? Yeah, no, for real. Go back to WrestleMania 5 and Jesse Ventura will be like, why is Macho Man coming out first when he's the champion, Hogan coming out second? It shouldn't happen like that. And he was right. The champion should always come out last. You need to wait for the champion, not the other way around. And because Cody Rhodes, well, I guess you could say Seth Rollins was a champion, so he should come out second. I didn't think of that. I'm just thinking of that now. But in my head, I was thinking this. Cody Rhodes was the challenger to Roman Reigns. Therefore, he was the more important person in the duo, so he should have came out second, and Seth should have came out first because he would not be challenging Roman on night 2. And they have the right order with Roman and Rock. Rock came out, even though I do agree that The Rock has been overshadowing Roman, The Rock came out first, and then Roman came out second. That was correct. But now that I think about it, the fact that Seth is actually a champion, maybe he should have came out second. I don't know if WWE was like thinking about that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Put in the comment. Who should have came out second out of Seth and Cody? Should it have been Cody because he was the challenger to Roman? Or should it have been Seth because he was a champion. Huh. All right. So I don't know if I take that back or not. I'm just going to leave it in the video and you guys can decide whether or not this was a negative. But in my mind, the more important person needs to come out last. And I based the important person not on, you know, who's actually better, but who has the title or who is challenging for the title, where their placement is on the card. And now the final bad thing, the worst thing of WrestleMania 10. If my frame is a little different, it's because the washer was going crazy. I had to stop it. So there's two things that are part of this final thing A and final thing B. Final thing A, when the Shield music hit, I was really hoping Dean Ambrose would come out. I really was. I totally understand why he wasn't. You don't want Dean Ambrose coming out and then people Googling, where's Dean Ambrose been? And then you see, oh wow, there's a whole nother federation. I'm going to watch that now. Ooh, AEW is better than WWE. Not that anybody would really say that, but I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe you decide. Am I kidding? Yeah, you don't want to really advertise the enemy. And Tony Khan said that WWE never even reached out, but I understand why they did it, but how cool would have that been? How cool would that have been? It might have even taken away the fact that Dean Ambrose returned, so it's probably for the best, but in a perfect world, he would have been there. And the final other thing is when the lights go out and it's Undertaker. Undertaker really made no sense. I do get that Roman Reigns did beat Undertaker. He's one of the two people that beat Undertaker at WrestleMania, but in reality, that was a different Roman Reigns. That was not your tribal chief. And Rock and Undertaker had a beef too, but again, those two, just don't see it. Just don't see it. It would have been way cool had it been Stone Cold Steve Austin. And granted, and maybe a little hypocritical, Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't really have anything to do with Roman Reigns, but he did definitely have a beef with The Rock, and it could have been a cool throwback moment to the Attitude Era. They had the best WrestleMania trilogy, some say, and it would have just been really freaking cool. But again, I get it. Plus, Stone Cold, though, you could argue Stone Cold would be like, you know what? Back in the day, I had to deal with the boss who tried to keep me, the working man, down. And that's what Cody is, the working man. And now The Rock is trying to keep him down. So Stone Cold saw that and said, no, I'm not going to let that happen. And we could have got one really cool final over the top Rock Stone Cold Stunner bump, but just not meant to be. I hope it was. I heard it was because of money, which would suck. I mean, some things I feel. Come on, Stone Cold, you have more money than you need. You could have had one more giant moment, dude. You can't buy those moments, but maybe that's not it though. If that's not it, then I apologize for even insinuating. The other person it could have been would have been Brock Lesnar. That would have made a lot more sense. Brock and Rock do have a history, but even more so, Brock and Roman have a history, and on top of that, Brock and Cody have a history, and that Brock-Cody history ended at, what was it? Was it SummerSlam? Well, it ended at SummerSlam with Brock shaking Cody's hand out of respect. So imagine if Cody called up a favor and had Brock in his back corner just in case he needed someone to take out the final boss. Oh, that would have been amazing. But Brock is implicated in the Vince McMahon lawsuit, and Vince. This is why we can't have nice things. Why? We're not going to go there. But that would have been amazing. So, you can't get Stone Cold. You can't get Brock Lesnar. Undertaker is a viable final boss. Because it had to be someone big to take out The Rock. And Undertaker is big enough to do it. You could argue Undertaker is a locker room leader. So he made sure not to let that happen. Or whatever the case may be. Whatever. It wasn't the worst choice. But it just would have been so much cooler. Stone Cold, Brock Lesnar. It would have just been so much cooler. But regardless, it was a great WrestleMania. Just, I'm nitpicking on a couple of these things, and yeah, if WrestleMania 41 can match the greatness of WrestleMania 40, then we're in for a treat. We're definitely in for a treat, and who knows? Maybe it'll just get better. We're in the new Triple H, Paul Levesque era. Things are just getting better and better and better. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. Please acknowledge the subscribe button, like I still acknowledge my tribal chief, and I appreciate you. Help me grow this channel. Please share the channel, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment what you feel was the worst part of WrestleMania 40. Go to my best of WrestleMania 40 video. Comment what you feel is the best part of WrestleMania 40. And guys, I appreciate every single one of you. Guys and girls, I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great day.